Nonlinear equations and systems of equations. Let's have a look at this. In the xy plane, a line with equation 4y equals 4.5 intersects a parabola at exactly 1 point. If the parabola has this equation where b is a positive constant, what's the value of b? A line intersects a parabola at exactly 1 point. What does that mean? It's a quadratic expression. A line meets a quadratic function at exactly 1 point. B square minus 4ac is equal to 0. What's the value of b? Make y the subject here. Y equals 4.5 over 2. Put that in the other equation and you get 4.5 over 2 equal to minus 4x squared plus bx. Is that okay? You equate them first of all. That's the first thing you do in such problems, right? Okay. Now you have to find b square minus 4ac and put that equal to 0. We did this in quadratics. 2.25, or in fraction that would be, if you put this on a calculator, it will be 9 over 4. 9 over 4 equals minus 4x squared plus bx. Take everything to one side, or just multiply this by 4 first of all. 9 equals minus 16x squared plus 4bx. 16x squared minus 4bx plus 9 equal to 0. Now we need to put b square minus 4ac equal to 0. In place of a, we've got 16. In place of b, we have minus 4b. And in place of c, we've got 9. b square minus 4ac is equal to 0 minus 4b whole squared minus 4 into 16 into 9 is equal to 0. And we get 16b squared minus 9 into 16 into 4, okay? 64 times 9, anyone? 576. B square equals 576 over 16. That's 36 and b equals 6. It could be plus minus 6. And they're saying it's the positive constant, so we only consider plus 6. The value of b is 6. Is that okay? Now it's quite some working and it does happen on SAT. The last 5-6 questions, they will require some time. Okay? There's still 10 minutes left. अच्छा मेरी भी सुबह 8 बजे से क्लासेस चल रही हैं. इट्स ओके. मेरी भी सुबह 8 बजे से क्लासेस चल रही हैं. इट्स ओके. यू आर ऑल यंग पीपल. कुछ नहीं होता आप लोगों को. ओके. अच्छा, क्वेश्चन नंबर 2. Which ordered pair is a solution to the system of equations above? Okay, so what do we do? In the first equation, you can say y equals x minus 1. Put that in the other equation. X plus x minus 1 equals x squared minus 3. X squared minus 2x minus 2 equal to 0. Put this on your calculator now and see what you get from that. 1 minus 2 minus 2 and you get 1 plus under root 3. That's the x coordinate. Y coordinate is that's the other x coordinate. Okay, so there's only one x value that's matching, so it's supposed to be a. You can put that back in the function to get y and that will be the same thing. There's only one option that has an x coordinate of 1 plus under root 3. There's no other option that's giving that x coordinate, so that means that's your final answer. Is that okay? No problems? I just put this on on my calculator and that gave me 1 plus under root 3 and 1 minus under root 3. Only a is matching, right? If there were two options, both having 1 plus under root 3, we would have had to put this value back in y as well to find the corresponding value of y and see if that matches that option or not. In this case, it does not. There's only one option with that x coordinate, so that's all that we need. Okay? So this under root 3 is the y coordinate. This is the x coordinate. We just found the x coordinate, and that was unique in all of these options. We said that's the answer. Is that all right? Let's move on. Question number 2. Now the next one is question number 9 from this. Okay, so this was the next one. The given equation relates the distinct positive real numbers w, x and y. Distinct, what does that mean? W, x and y are all different. Okay, now this question actually has a problem. इसका जो PDF बना है तो ये option सही नहीं है. नहीं ये लिखा नहीं हुआ. It's problem with the PDF. Option सही नहीं है ये. Which equation correctly expresses w in terms of x and y? You can just make w the subject. How do you make that? Square both sides. 14x over 7y equals, or let me just do it right now. Let's just square both sides here. 14 squared, what's that? 196. 196x squared divided by 49y squared, that equals 4 into w plus 19. Is this all right? We need to make w the subject now. Divide 4 on the other side and then subtract 19, and you're going to get w equals 196 divided by 49 times 4, when this 4 goes to the other side, times y squared. Where was x? 196x squared divided by 49 into 4 times y squared, and then this 19 will go to the other side as well, get subtracted, and that's your final answer. You can simplify this. 196 over 49. Yeah, I think this will all cancel out, and you have x squared over y squared minus 19. So w should equal this, and hopefully one of the other options will be this. Is that okay? So this is supposed to be the final result from this. Any problems? No? Okay, now the next one is three more questions. Question number 12. Okay. In the given equation, c is a constant. The equation has exactly one solution. What's the value of c? You can do this, right? One solution, exactly one solution. It's a quadratic equation. Exactly one solution means b square minus 4ac is equal to 0. So that means minus 8 whole squared minus 4 into minus 16 times c should equal 0. 64 plus 64c equals 0, and the value of c is minus 1. Is that okay? It's a quadratic equation. One solution means b square minus 4ac is equal to 0. All right? Okay. Now the next one is 20 and 21. Last two questions. The third file we'll do in the next session then. नहीं, ये file पूरी करनी है. 20 and 21. Just two more questions. Sorry? Just two more questions. In the given equation, a and b are positive constants. The sum of the solution of the given equation is k into 4a plus b, where k is a constant. What's the value of k? Sum of the solutions. Does anyone remember? Sum of roots minus b over a. That's what sum of roots is given by. किया था हमने ये. If you have an equation of this form, ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0, sum of roots is given by minus b over a. That's the formula. We did this. अच्छा, sum क्या होगा फिर? Minus b. ये आपकी b की value है. And this is a. Sum is equal to minus b over a. Just input those values. minus into minus, that becomes plus. 16a plus 4b divided by 64. Is that okay? This should equal k into 4a plus b. That's an equation that we're getting. Now, how do we solve this? On the left side, if we take 4 common, we are left with 4a plus b. And then you have k into 4a plus b. 4a plus b and 4a plus b, they get cancelled. K equals 4 over 64, which is 1 over 16. And that's your final answer. Divide कर दिया ना वहाँ पे जाके 4a plus b. So that gets cancelled. Is that okay? No problem? Okay, last one. You have all of these available in the OneNote file, by the way. It's posted on Google Classroom. ये सारी जो आपके पास notes हैं, they're all available. Okay, last one for today. What's the sum of solutions to the given equation? You just need to remember the formula minus b over a. Minus into minus 40 divided by 1, which is 40, that's d. Okay, nonlinear functions, let's look at. Okay, let's look at question number 7 from this. Question number 7. Growth of a culture of bacteria. We have these data points given. Okay. A culture of bacteria is growing at an exponential rate. Exponential rate, as shown in the table above. At this rate, on which day would the number of bacteria per millimeter reach 5.12 into 10 raised to power 8? What is an exponential function like? A, B raised to power x, right? Now, the variable in this case is day, right? The number of days. So we can say AB raised to power t. Instead of x, we can represent time by the variable t. The function is going to look like this. Okay. What's this factor? What is this factor going to be? Can you find out the factor? By how much are the values being multiplied? You have 2.5 into 10 raised to the power 5. It becomes 5 into 10 raised to the power 5. You're multiplying by 2, right? Multiplied this by 2, you get the next one. So this factor is supposed to be 2. Is that okay? In order to get the next values, you're multiplying by 2. Is that okay? What was A? In exponential function, this constant outside used to represent the initial value. What's the initial value? Is the initial value 2.5? No, initial value would be at day 0. At day 1, it's 2.5. Can you figure out the value at day 0? Half of this, that would be 1.25 into 10 raised to the power 5. Does that make sense? That's the initial value. So outside here, we could have 1.25 into 10 raised to the power 5 and then 2 whole raised to the power t. This is what the function is going to be. This value is the initial value and this is the factor by which the values are changing. You're multiplying each value by 2 to get the next value. Any problem with this? On which day would the number of bacteria reach this number? 5.112 into 10 raised to power 8. You can just input that here. 5.12 into 10 raised to power 8 equals 1.25 into 10 raised to power 5 into 2 raised to power t. Divide this on the other side. Do this on your calculator. Let's see what that gives us. 5.12 divided by 1.25. And then you have multiplied by 10 raised to power 8 minus 5. That will be 10 raised to power 3. And that's giving us 4096. 4096 equals 2 raised to power t. What power of 2 is 4096? Let's just try that. 2 raised to power 10. is 1024. Okay, let's increase the number a bit. 2 raised to power 12. Yeah, 2 raised to power 12 is this. So we say t therefore is 12, and that's what we were looking for. So it's D. Is that okay? Now this is one way of doing this. Since, however, you had the options given, you could try the options as well once you have figured this out. You know that this is what the function is going to be. Try any one of these numbers. Try 11, for instance, or try 9. So let's try 9, for instance. Put 9 here and see what that gives you. Does that give you this or not? Let's just try that. If we input 9 here, 1.25 into 10 raised to the power 5 into 2 raised to the power 9. This is 6.4 into 10 raised to the power 7. Okay? Is that the answer? It's not. You want a bigger number. So day 9 is not working. Day 5, therefore, is also not going to work. So remember, we used to try one of options B and C. So we don't start with A or D. We try B or C because that will help us eliminate two options or one option at a time. 2 or 3 options, in fact, at a time. So if we try B, we also know that A cannot be true as well. Now we try 11. Let's try that. If we try 11 in power here, that gives us 2.56 into something. That's also not the answer. Try 12. And that does give you the answer. 512, so on, right? That's the answer. So that means it's supposed to be 12, therefore. Okay, so you could either input the options and see which one gives you the correct answer, or solve it formally like this. Any problem? No? So it's important to remember this value outside represents the initial value in an exponential function. This is the factor by which the values are increasing. Okay, Achha. Question number 8. Okay, so the next one is question number 8. A quadratic function models a projectile's height in meters above the ground in terms of the time in seconds after it was launched. So we have one variable which is height, and the other variable which is time in seconds. The model estimates that the projectile was launched from an initial height of 7 meters above the ground. Initial height of 7 meters. What does that mean? That means when t is equal to 0, h equals 7. Initial height is 7. At time 0, h is equal to 7. Okay. It reaches a maximum height of 51.1 3 seconds after the launch. That means when t is equal to 3, h is equal to 51.1, and that's the maximum point as well of this function. So we have a quadratic function. We know 2 points on that quadratic function. How many seconds after the launch does the model estimate that the projectile will return to a height of 7 meters? How do you figure this out? One idea could be to make an equation like that, as you normally do, a into x minus h whole square plus k. The variable in this case is t. You could say a into t minus h whole square plus k. That's a general method that would work in problems like this. Whenever you have the turning point given, you use this form of quadratic function. Input the values of h and k. What's h? H is 51.1 and k is, sorry, the other way around. H is 3 and k is 51.1. This is what the function is going to look like. Now we do not know what the value of a is. We can find that by inputting t equal to 0 and h equal to 7. We can find a as well, and then we can input h equal to 7 to find the corresponding value for t. That's one possible way of doing this, but that's going to take pretty long. We will have to do this sometimes. Sometimes we will have to do this. But in this question, we could actually do it slightly quicker. Can anyone spot how we can do it quicker? You know, at time 0, height is 7. At time 3, height is 51.1. And then at some point, the height comes back to 7. At some point, the height comes back to 7. Can we do it directly by just looking at what the function is like? Is it an n-shaped function or a u-shaped function? We know a maximum point for this, right? So it's an n-shaped function. It's going to look like this. The maximum point is 3 and 51.1. At time 0, h is 7, and h is 7 again at some point. Can we figure out what time that is? It's a symmetrical graph. Turning point is going to be exactly in the middle. This is 3 units. This should be 3 units as well. So this point is supposed to be 6, 7. The time value is supposed to be 6 here, and it should be b. So you can use the symmetry of the graph because you see the y value here and the y value here, that's the same. You know the turning point. Using the symmetry of the graph, you know if this is 3 units, this is also supposed to be 3 units, so the time that you're looking for is 6. Is that okay? All right. Okay, let's look at the next one. The next one after this was question number 10. Okay, the function f is defined by this given equation. For what value of x does f of x reach its minimum? What's the minimum point, minimum x, the x value at which f of x reaches its minimum point? So the x coordinate of the turning point, how do you find that? One possibility is you expand it and then find the turning point minus b over 2a, or just use your calculator directly. But can we do it slightly quicker than that? What are the x-intercepts of this function? X minus 14 and x plus 19 equal to 0. What are the x-intercepts? X equals 14 and x equals minus 19. Turning point is always in the middle of the two x-intercepts. Remember that? Turning point is always in the middle of the two x-intercepts. If you know that this is minus 19, this is 14, it's a U-shaped graph. We know the two x-intercepts. This is negative 19, this is 14. Turning point is going to be exactly in the middle. You just find the midpoint of those two numbers, 14 minus 19 divided by 2. And that's going to give you the x-coordinate of this point, which is minus 5 over 2. And that is going to be D. Is that all right? So if you know the x-intercepts, you can just find the midpoint to find the x-coordinate of the turning point. All good? Okay. Question number 11. We can't do this. All the options are messed up. Okay. So let's just skip this, but can we actually do it? Okay, I think we can actually try it without the options as well. A model estimates at the end of each year from 2015 to 2020, the number of squirrels in a population was 150% more than the number in the population at the end of the previous year. 150% more than the previous year. What does that mean? If, for instance, we know at the end of 2016, they have given you that the number was 180. What is the next number going to be? 150% more than this. How do you increase something by 150%? Sorry? 2.5. 100% plus 150%, that becomes 250%. So you multiply by 2.5. That is going to be the factor that you multiply. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, it's an exponential function, right? You're multiplying with the same thing. So the factor you figured out is 2.5. So it's going to be 2.5 raised to power something. They're saying t represents the number of years since 2015. So it's going to be like this, 2.5 raised to power t. But then you need to have an initial value here. What's the initial value? Is 180 an initial value? It's not. This is the value in 2016. The initial value would be when the year is 2015, this would be the initial value. And looking at the options, if it's not 180, the other option is 72. So the function is going to look something like this: 72 into 2.5 raised to power t. And you can confirm that as well. If you input t equal to 1 here, 72 into 2.5, that gives us 180. So 2016 number is supposed to be correct. So this function is what is going to be the final answer. N equals this, either A or B, whichever of them has this there. Is that okay? No problems? So this is very important to understand. The number outside represents the initial value. This is the factor by which you are increasing something. Okay. That's how exponential functions work. Let's move on. The next one from this PDF was question number 17. Okay, let's try this. A landscaper is designing a rectangular garden. The length of the garden is to be 5 feet longer than the width. The area of the garden will be 104 square feet. If the area of the garden will be 104 square feet, what will be the length in feet of the garden? Isn't that fairly straightforward? You have a rectangle. We want to find the length. Length is 5 feet longer than the width. If we say the length is x, what would the width be? X minus 5. Area of the garden is 104. We can say x into x minus 5 should equal 104. That's an equation that we get. We just solve this equation. That gives us x squared minus 5x minus 104 equal to 0. Solve this equation directly on your calculator or on Desmos and see what that gives you. 1 minus 5 minus 104, and that's giving me 13. The other value is negative. Length cannot be negative, so 13 is your answer. That's supposed to be the area. Okay. You could do it without solving an equation as well, because you know length is 5 feet longer than width. You can just try some random numbers. Multiply two numbers and see if they give you 104, such that the difference between numbers is 5. You can start with 10 into 5, for instance. 10 times 5. What does that give you? That's a smaller number. So try a bigger number, maybe 15 times 10. That's more than 104. So try something in between. 13 times 8, maybe. And that works. And that's your answer. You say length is 13. So you just do it directly by trial and error like that as well. Is that okay? All right. So that was question number 17. Okay. So the next one is 24. Okay. Question 24. All right. The table shows 3 values of x and their corresponding values of y, where y is equal to f of x plus 4 and f is a quadratic function. We know it's a quadratic function. What's the y coordinate of the y-intercept of the graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane? Okay. So we have x and y values, and y is equal to f of x plus 4. And we want to find the y-intercept of y equals f of x. Now, first of all, let's stick to this function, and then we'll see how to go from this function to this function afterwards. Okay. This is a quadratic function, they're saying. Can we write down this function somehow? Is it an N-shaped graph or a U-shaped graph? Can you figure out from the values that are given? Is it N-shaped or U-shaped? Just plot these points. 21 and minus 8, let's say that's here. 21 and minus 8. When x is 23, that's on the right side. Y is 8, that's going to be above somewhere, so that we can mark that point here. Let's say this is 23 and 8. And then it becomes minus 8 again when x is 25. So it comes back here. This is 25 and minus 8. It's clear that it's an N-shaped function with a maximum point. Right? You can't make a U-shape from for these points, right? It's going to look like this. Do we know if it's the turning point for sure? This is actually the turning point as well. How do we know that? How do we know it's the turning point? Using the symmetry of the graph. The y value is -8 at this point and also at this point. The x coordinates are 21 and 25 here. The midpoint is 23. That's where the turning point is supposed to be. So we know this is going to be the maximum point of this function. Is that all right? Now this is the maximum point. Now if we know that's the maximum point, remember the standard form y equals a into x minus h whole square plus k. We know that this is h and k. So the function becomes y equals a into x minus 23 whole squared plus 8. Is that okay? Now the only problem is we do not know what the value of a is. We can input any of the other 2 points and find the value of a from this as well. Right? Input, for instance, this point. Minus 8 equals a into 21 minus 23 whole square plus 8. And that gives you 4a plus 8 equals minus 8. A equals minus 16 over 4, which is minus 4. So the function that you have is minus 4 into x minus 23 whole squared plus 8. This is the function that we're given. Is that all right? What's the y-intercept of this function? Put x equal to 0. That will give you the y-intercept. What do we get? Minus 4 multiplied by 0 minus 23. That's minus 23 whole squared plus 8. That's minus 2108. That's the y-intercept of this function. That's the y-intercept of this function. This function is f of x plus 4. What about the y-intercept of this function now? What should that be? If this is minus 2108 and f of x plus 4 equals that, what is f of x going to be? Minus 2112, and that is your final result. This is the y-intercept of this function. Is that okay? Let me know if you have any questions. So we found the y-intercept of this original function, and then we were given that this function is actually y equals f of x plus 4. What's the y-intercept of this then? We just subtract 4 more from that, and that gives us minus 2112. All right? Okay. That was 24. Then you have 25. Okay. A quadratic function models the height in feet of an object above the ground in terms of the time after the object is launched off an elevated surface. The model indicates that the object has an initial height of 10 feet above the ground. Initial means when t equals 0, h is 10. Okay, that's the initial value that we're given. Reaches its maximum height of 1034 above the ground 8 seconds after being launched. So when t is equal to 8, h is equal to 1034, and we also know this is the maximum point. What's the height of the object above the ground 10 seconds after being launched? Now we did a very similar question to this earlier, but there we just used the symmetry of the graph because it was coming to the same point at the end. But here that's not the case. So इसको हमें equation बना के ही करना पड़ेगा. Okay? How do you make that equation? Then you have the turning point given. Remember, whenever we have the turning point given, we can write down the equation in this form: y equals a into x minus h whole square plus k. In this case, instead of y we have h. Instead of x we have t. So this is what the equation looks like. Is that okay? Now this h and this h, they are of course different. Okay, don't confuse them. The x coordinate of the turning point, what's that? 8. Y coordinate is 1034. If you get confused by this, you can also say height is y and time is x. That might make things simpler for you. You can do that. Just actually do that because 2/8 might just confuse you. Time को हम कह देते हैं x. Okay. So y equals a into x minus h whole square plus k. Now these are the values that were given then. When x equals 0, y equals 10. When x equals 8, y equals this. Okay, now what's the turning point? Turning point is 8 and 1034. So this function becomes a into x minus 8 whole squared plus 1034. That's what the function becomes. Okay. Now the problem is we do not know the value for a. Can we find the value for a? We have this other point given. When x equals 0, y equals 10. We can just input that here now. We can say let's input 0, 10. We know that point. That will help us find the value for a. And that gives us 10 equal to a into 0 minus 8 whole squared plus 1034. And that's going to give us the value for a. 64a plus 1034 equals 10. 10 minus 1034 divided by 64. And that's negative 16. A is equal to minus 16. So this function therefore becomes y equals minus 16 into x minus 8 whole square plus 1034. We want the height 10 seconds after being launched. So all we have to do is put x equal to 10 here and see what that gives us. Y equals minus 16 into 10 minus 8 whole squared plus 1034. And that would give us the result, which is minus 16 into 4 plus 1034, and that is 970, so it's supposed to be C. Does that make sense? इसमें नहीं हो सकता because I was just thinking about this. Ratio method, you cannot use ratio methods for non-linear functions. That only works for linear functions. इसमें ratio नहीं लगा सकता. Initial height is 10 in 8 seconds it goes there. No. Yeah. Yes? We were looking for the y-intercept. Y-intercept पे x 0 होता है. Does this make sense? देखें, we have used this same method on 3 questions already from this PDF. So your hard questions में the same thing is getting repeated. Okay? So you have to be very comfortable using this method. ये form आपको याद होनी चाहिए, and you should know h and k are the turning points coordinates. Okay? Alright, this was 25. Let's move on to the next one now. 26. Achha, we have more questions abhi. 26. The distance d in meters traveled by an object moving in a straight line can be modeled by a quadratic function that's defined in terms of t. Again, we have a quadratic function where t is the time in seconds. At a time of 10 seconds, the total distance traveled by the object is 50 meters. And at 20 seconds, the distance traveled 200 meters. If the object is at a distance of 0 meters when t equals 0, then what's the total distance traveled in meters by the object after 30 seconds? Okay, so how do we think about this now? Again, it's a quadratic function, right? It's a quadratic function. Ratios cannot be used. It's a quadratic function. So we have distance and time. Again, if you want to simplify things, or it's okay, we don't have h or k here, so we can just write it like that. At time 10, distance is equal to 50. That's one point that we're given. At time 20, distance equals 200. And at time 0, distance is 0. What's the total distance traveled by the object after 30 seconds? This is the information that we're given. Okay? Do we have a turning point given? Do we have a turning point given? We have two turning points. Quadratic function में दो turning points आ गए. But we don't have a turning point. There's no turning point given. Turning point is the maximum point or the minimum point. We don't have that here. Turning point नहीं है यहाँ पे. So it's not going to help if we use that form because we do not know h and k. Okay, that's not given. Now we can use the other form, y equals ax square plus bx plus c. Okay. Now the easiest thing to start from would be this. We know that when t equals 0, d equals 0. If we write this in terms of d and t, we could say this is d equals at square plus bt plus c. When t is 0, d is 0. What does that tell us about the value of c? What is this going to be? C is going to be 0. You can try inputting. For t equal to 0, d equal to 0, you get 0 equals 0 plus c, and the value of c is 0. So this function therefore becomes d equals at squared plus bt. Is that all right? Any problems? Now we have two other points given. We would have to use those points to make two simultaneous equations. And then use that to find a and b. Is that okay? Okay. So the equations that we get, they're not going to be that complicated. Yeah, they're going to be fairly straightforward. If we input 50 first, 50 equals a into 10 squared plus b into 10. That gives us 100a plus 10b equals 50. And that's, if we divide by 10, we get 10a plus b equals 5. That's one equation. If we input this other point, 20 and 200, that gives us 200 equal to a into 20 squared plus b into 20. And that's 200 equals 400a plus 20b. We can divide the whole equation by 20, and that will leave us with 20a plus b equal to 10. These are two equations that we have. We can use these equations to find the values of a and b. Now, don't start solving these yourself. You can just use Desmos for this. Plot these two equations. You can find the point of intersection, or you can use your calculator to solve these simultaneous equations. Equation, simultaneous, two unknowns. Let's write them in standard form. 10a plus b equal to 5 and 20a plus b equal to 10. The first equation is 10. The coefficient is 10, the first coefficient, and then the second one is 1, and then 5. For the second equation, it's 20, 1, and 10. And you get the values of a and b. A is going to be 1 over 2, and b is going to be 0. So what's the function that we get then? D equals what? 1 over 2t squared. That's the function that we end up getting from this. And now we can just input t equal to 30 here and see what that gives us. If we input t equal to 30, 1 over 2 into 30 squared, that's 900 over 2, which is 450. And that is what we were looking for. This is going to be 450. This would be the way to do this, unless you're able to spot directly this function, which is pretty hard to be honest. आप directly देखकर अगर किसी तरह से आपको पता चल जाए कि you can write it like this, some people might be able to do that, but if not, this is the way to do it. Is that all right? No problems? I see a lot of blank faces. मैं आपको बताया, these are hard questions now. You have 22 questions in a module. You do the first 15 in 10 minutes. And then the next 7 will require time. Easy questions भी आपने देखे होंगे. How much time does that take? वो 20 seconds, 25 seconds वाले questions होते हैं. So you have to save time on the first 15 questions. And then you will get 2 questions minimum that will require this much amount of time in both modules. एक दो questions इस तरह के होते हैं. And they are there to differentiate between the 750s and 800s. तो वो होते हैं वहाँ पे उस तरह के. तो उसमें एफर्ट करनी पड़ेगी. तो उसके लिए आप बाकी क्वेश्चंस हैं वो जल्दी करेंगे, शुरू वाले जो आसान वाले हैं, making sure of course that they're all correct, and then you leave enough time for the rest, for the remaining questions. So for these 7 questions, you should leave at least 20 minutes. So somewhere between 20 to 25 minutes. So you can think about them comfortably. Okay. All right, so that's question number 26. The next one is 28. F of x equals x plus 7 whole square plus 4. For what value of x does f of x reach its minimum? Why was this asked? A into x minus h whole square plus k. How do you find the turning point? Just flip the sign of this number. That's minus 7. Okay. So if this is already completed square form, one way to think about this is just equate this thing inside to 0. What's the value of 7 that you get? What's the value of x that you get? Minus 7. That's the x coordinate of the turning point. The y coordinate is 4. They asked us for x. That's minus 7. Okay. The given function p models the population t years after a census. Which of the following functions best models the population m months after the census? Remember that form that we did in exponential functions? A, b raised to power t over k. Remember that? What did k represent? The number of time intervals after which the number increases by this factor. The original number t is in years. The function that they have given, in this case, t is representing years. If we have to write this in terms of number of months, how can we write that? 90,000, the initial value outside remains the same. Nothing changes with that. The factor remains the same as well. But now the variable is months. So we have m divided by the number of time units after which the population increases by this factor. After how many months does the population increase by this factor? 12 months. So this is m over 12. And that is option D. Is that okay? We did this in exponential functions. Okay, that was question number 30. Let's do the last one from this PDF. That's question number 38. Okay, let the function p be defined as this, where c is a constant. If p of c is equal to 10, what's the value of p of 12? P of c is 12. What does that mean? If you input x equal to c, the result is 10. P of C equals 10. Let's input that in the function. 10 equals C minus C whole squared plus 160 over 2C. Is that okay? And that gives us 20C equal to 160. The value of C is 8. 160 over 20, that's 8. So now we know that C is 8. Input 8 here. And now just put 12 in place of X. And that will give you 4 squared, right? 12 minus 8, square of that. And then you have plus 160 divided by C is again 8. So divided by 16, which is 11. That's D.